E rere taku manu I te kōhanga hoki atu taku manu kia tau E rere taku manu ki ngā hau whai hoki atu taku manu kia tau Rere atu rere mai ki mihi a ranga haua. Hoki mai ki tō kainga kia tau Whāngai atu ki tō whānau Whāngai atu ki tō hapori
Tēnā koutou katoa, talofa lava and warm Pacific greetings. Why did we establish the Hui Fono? I was privileged to be part of a dynamic small group that had come together to look at working with TEC, the Tertiary Education Commission, on professional development and what that might look like across the adult community education sector. And as a result of that work, what became very obvious was that there was the paucity of Māori Pacific provision, particularly Māori Pacific providers that were being funded by the Tertiary Education Commission. We knew that there was a lot of work being done by our organisations that were not directly funded by TEC. They'd got their funding by other means. So we thought it would be a great opportunity to be able to establish a yearly gathering where Māori and Pacific people came along to discuss issues, to share good practice, to seek out information, and to do a number of other things. And I'm really proud that 10 years on, the Hui Fono still continues.
Kia ora, tēnā tātou katoa. I was a member of the ACE Professional Development Steering Group back in 2006, along with Pauline Winter and Sandy Morrison, and together we formed the group of people who were there to represent Māori and Pacific voice. We had lots of fun, I have to say, stretching ourselves to know how we could most valuably contribute to the development of us as peoples who worked in the adult and community education sector, and looking at what was being offered to the sector in terms of professional development. Our questions were really, are the processes that are being offered sufficiently appropriate for Māori and Pacific peoples to be of value to us and to create the forum for us where we flourish? It was established because we needed to find a forum where Māori and Pacific could come together as ACE practitioners and talk about what was important to us. We talked about whether or not we should have a Māori and a Pacific day, and in the first Hui Fono that we ran, my recollection is that we did have a time where Māori and Pacific were able to discuss things as Māori ACE practitioners and as Pasifika practitioners. And the reason for that was sometimes when we got together, we would drown out our respective voices, and we needed to be able to have time where we could focus intentionally on what our specific needs were. But other times we understood the value of us coming together. So our first Hui Fono was focusing on what kinds of resources we needed, what kind of movement we wanted to create through the process. And if you've read the book, you'll know that we talked about not just an academic development of us, but also of a political motivation to create ways in which our aspirations as Māori and Pacific peoples could be met. So that was the first Hui Fono. It was held up at the Pacific Business Trust in Auckland, and it was hosted by literally Aotearoa and We put it together really quickly, and since then it's just gone to these great and wondrous hui and fono events. Well, we did want to see a collection of our whakaaro and our wangawa, our concerns being discussed in an open forum between both Māori and Pacific. We wanted to connect ourselves through our whakapapa in relation to Moana Nui a Kiwa, and we wanted to disestablish to some extent the barriers that are created by us as Māori and Pacific, being separated from our cultural connections. So do I think that we managed to do that through hui fono? Of course I do. I believe that the hui fono has to continue to consider what else. I think it's great to see that we've got a political panel coming in this time to start to re-engage our political activity. It is, I think it's an inherent nature of ours as Indigenous peoples of our respective countries that we have to show our political voice in all aspects of the work that we're doing, because we end up being the voices for our leaders. So it was for enhancing our practice, enhancing our knowledge, and growing our critical perspectives of what we should have available to us as Māori and Pasifika. Our growth as people relies on us to give and continue to give. And I just think we should be really proud that we take that time to do that. And if this is the one moment in time we stop to appreciate that, then let this be it. Ka nui te mihi aroha ki au koutou katoa.
Ko tō e po uri e whenua tonga. Ko pōpō uri e loto ai tonga katoa. Nā koe. Ko ia e kuini ma whai haere atu. Haere atu wā. Ka mau tuku mui mui atu. Tua o whala. It was a malleable time as far as tertiary education were concerned. We were fortunate to be asked to come and inform the tertiary education about community and adult education, because they have very little appreciation of what it was about. So after helping them with Koya that Professor Morrison was actually assisting tertiary with, we were in a time that we realized that our work is coming to an end. So for us as wise Māori and Polynesians and Pacific people within the reference group decided we needed to carve out a piece of funding so that we can develop in a way that is unique to us as Pacific people, we are Māori, Micronesian or Melanesian. And we saw professional development is the most appropriate and an approach that we can measure. And that's how I think hui and fono came together, because we were able to assess a proportion of funding for professional development. And although we didn't know how long it would take, we are really, really pleased to see that 10 years later, they're still here.
So, in my conceptual reflection, it's about that Māori once were Pacific people. We claimed that, and we still, some of us still do claim it. We share ancestry, we share the oceans with peoples of the Pacific. Our lives are very well embedded through our whakapapaling. So there's a very special relationship and a spiritual relationship as well. Once we came to Aotearoa, New Zealand, and got busy creating our own and designing our own style for living, we of course carried with us many of that mātauranga, many of that knowledge to recreate in a way that allowed us to survive in Aotearoa. Reconceptualization for Māori as Pacific people is really, really important. And one way, I think, through our discussion with each other, and also with Pauline and also with Bronwyn, was that this not just be a capacity building tool to only grow ourselves, but that we can find space within that discussion to discuss this relationship I don't think we should always find ourselves in this binary relationship with Pākehā.
Yes. Yes.
And because in that relationship, on many occasions, Pacific people are put with Pākehā, and yet you know we've got this whakapapa relationship. So part of my impetus, I think, was very spiritually driven, and still is spiritually driven. I like to claim my identity as belonging and coming from the moana.
Yes, as part of the hui Fono is our endeavour to reignite those relationships where we have actually lived amongst each other, and this part of the ocean where we can pack up and sail to our relatives in Samoa or Fiji, or in the case of New Zealand, they would have come to New Zealand in order to actually visit them and see what they can do to benefit their people back. So really it's a reference that we have come to try and work for the benefit of our people back home. But the ways of doing things here are so different. Gone are the days that we belong to the land and the land belongs to us. Here, we buy our land, and when we can afford it, we go to another piece of land. So there's a challenge to the way we do things that goes back to actually our vision to try and come together as people of the land, the Māori or Pacific, to work together in order to reclaim some of the culture that defined us for many, many hundreds of years in this place where competition is the dominant way of thinking.
Because let's not take away the spiritual aspect of all our educational journeys, especially in the ACE sector. If we don't bring it to the fore, who will? And let us kind of reclaim that identity, because that identity becomes increasingly important in a world that is moving technologically rapidly and in a world of globalization. And we just need to hold fast. And while Māori are strong, standing in terms of their own mana on this land, I think that we, as another poem by Tui Atua says, is that we need to share a tofi. We need to share a tofi with our village and our nations and those people who are close to us as well. And I think 10 years ago we just happened to be in positions that allowed these ideas and these thoughts to grow and to blossom, and we're in the influential position, I think, of being able to direct and guide policy. However, you know, it can only sustain itself if other people come on this waka with us, and if other people join the journey. So while we were there at the beginning, we're just pleased that 10 years later, Hui Fono is still continuing, and that is really true testament to the vision.
Carry on.
So just in closing, I'm reminded, and I hope that I can remember the words of it, but I'm sure that you'll assist. And I think this kind of epitomizes the reason that Hui Fono exists, and it's by Epeli Hawufa, and it's called the Kava Bowl. I'm not as eloquent in the poetry as my colleague here, so help me along. So it goes, in the twilight we sit, drinking kava from the kava bowl. Who we are we need not know, for the soul that we share comes from the Waihi. And embedded within that is that sharing of souls, that we have this common heritage, whether it be the Waihi, whether it be Hawaii, whether it be from the ocean, but the soul that we share comes from the Waihi. Nō reira, ka mutu tātawa tāmaua kōrero, kia koutou, tēnā tātou, tēnā koutou katoa.
May you have a successful conference, and may we celebrate many, many, many 10 years of success for the Hui Fono. Malo au pito, mō mea.
Pasifika, tēnā koutou. Pasifika, tēnā koutou. Isabula vinaka Kia orana Whakalo whalahi atu Talohani Halo ola kita Māori ora Pasifika Tēnā koutou Pasifika Tēnā koutou Le atua Ia whakawhetai Talo whalawa Malo elelei Isabula vinaka Kia orana Whakalo whalahi atu Talohani Halo ola kita Māori ora Pasifika